Hello everyone and welcome to the complete and in-depth guide to the Path of the Scabaras and the boss at the end of it, Kephri. Now, before we get started, this video is not a gear recommendation video. This is a complete guide on how to deal with every mechanic on this path and boss fight in a solo, and if there's any differences in teams, I'll also speak about those. On that note, let's begin. The Path of Scabaras is, well, the Scarab path. The boss at the end is a giant scarab beetle, and the path itself has literal puzzles that must be solved to progress. The path consists of 5 puzzles, and then a boss fight. Each of the puzzles are easy to solve when you know what to do, but all are unique and must be conquered together in a team raid, or on your own in a solo raid. The puzzles are a solid mix of memory and mathematics. Let's hop into the game for an analysis and an in-depth explanation on how to solve each. It is worth noting, the first 4 puzzles can be done in any order at any side of the map, and the final one is always going to be a matching memory game. Let's begin. Now, this is the Path of the Scabaras. As you can see, there are 4 puzzles, and then at the end, there is a matching puzzle. When you've completed all of these, the barrier at the end will be lifted and you can fight the boss. First things first, let's talk about the one with the grid with the icons on. Now, before I go in, if we take a look at the grid, there's a 5x5 square with icons in, and all of these icons represent a different number. If I can draw your attention to this on the wall, this is how you figure out what each icon is worth. Now, it's kind of like a phone number pad. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. An easy way to remember this is 1 looks like a 1. 2 is 2 reeds or knives, but there's 2 of them. It's the only icon where there's actually 2 things separated. 3 is a triangle. 4 is a diamond. Both of those have 3 and 4 sides respectively. 5 is a glove because you've got 5 fingers. 6 is a bird. 7 is basically a backwards 7 or a hut. 8 is a W. I remember it as Wario. Don't know why. Just reminds me of it. And then 9 is this boot. Guess I've got 9 toes. No, but that's how I remember it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now if we go back to the puzzle, as you can see, all the icons are on the floor. So let's enter. It's worth noting, when you are solving these puzzles, a constant wave of scarabs will attack you. You can negate all of the damage by simply praying range, or you can kill them. In a team, one person can kill them while one solves the puzzles, etc. But what we'll do is we'll go in. Now to solve this room, it's very simple. You inspect this ancient tablet, which is different every time, and you'll get a number. To solve this room, you've just got to walk on the panels that add up to the number there. Now the number changes every time, but the grid doesn't. This grid will stay the same every time, so if you want to memorize the grid, go ahead. Now we have 38, and we know some of these numbers. So W was 8, this was 7, that's 15. The birds are 6, so that's 21, 27, 33. And then 33 and 38, the difference is 5, so we're missing a 5, which is the glove. So when we step on this, the entire puzzle will light up and that means it's solved. As you can see in the chat, Puzzle 2 has been completed. Now, I've put together a vertical, horizontal, and diagonal sheet for this grid. As you can see, these are all the presets. So if you have a number that adds up to any combination of these, you can just run straight across. You could also take it one step further and do the diagonals with 2, 3, 4 icons, but I haven't put that on this image. Hope it helps. Now, this room's interesting in the sense of when you're soloing it, you cannot exit. Like, you can't exit as soon as the challenge has begun. It's impossible. As you can see, you can't leave till the challenge is over. But you also can't progress. Now in a team, what you do is you both solve the puzzle and then this gate opens and you can get down to the next one. In a solo, however, you have to solve one side and then crawl through to the other passage and then solve this one as well. Now, this here is simply a light puzzle. If you stand on a corner, it turns the 3 next to it on and off respectively, and it's the opposite of whatever they were on. So they're basically booleans. They've got 2 states, on and off. If you stand on one, itself and the ones at the side of it will reverse. So this is off, these 2 are on. So if I stand on this, then these 2 will turn off and this one is on. Now this room's kind of unique in the sense of you don't have to solve the puzzle. If you want, you can right click a pressure plate and just click flip. And what this does is it will turn it, but you will take 20 damage. So you can brute force this. However, there is a very simple way to complete these puzzles. I'll try and explain very easily. Now, what you want to do is try to get to a state where only one light is turned off. So for example, if we do this, it's easy to get to a state where one light's turned off, correct? And to complete this puzzle, you have to turn all 9 on. Now, I'm going to show you 2 things. The first is that when it's a corner piece, there's a very specific method to actually complete this puzzle. If you have a corner piece that's unlit and the rest are lit, what you can do is place it at the bottom left. So if it was this one, you'd turn your camera here. If it was this one, you'd turn your camera like this. So place it at the bottom left, and then you follow a simple pattern. You can click these in any order you want and it'll work, but it's these 5 tiles. You do the one that's turned off, and then you do the one opposite to the north. You do the one next to it, and then you go diagonal one and do this. Now this will work every time. So if I just unmark these tiles, if for example you remember that pattern and it was this one here, then you do this one, the opposite, and then this one, then diagonal and down. And if it was this one, you'd go this one, the opposite, there, diagonal down. And to show this in action, what you do is you just stand on all 5 in any order. So this one, and then you go diagonal for this one, and then you go down, and then you stand on the initial one, and it'll complete. Now, as you can see, if I stand on that, it will complete. But if that happens, I won't be able to carry on giving a tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn some off. And there's one other scenario. We've covered the corners, but what happens if the only one that's unlit is the one on the side? So for example, here we go. The corners, we've gone through the method. For the side pieces, which are these 4 in the middle, there's a different method, and it's a lot easier to remember. If you, again, place it to your left on your camera, so for example, if it was this one, you'd put your camera like this, then all you need to do is the ones that you stand on are these 2 at the top and these 2 at the bottom. It's really easy to remember. It's just 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. And if it was this one, it'd be these 2 and these 2. And if it was this one, it'd be these 2 and these 2. Again, you can press these in any order you want. So if I turn my camera like this and we go 1, 2, and the bottom 2, and then simply stand on the one at the left and it's complete. Now that is every single method of solving the light puzzle, so hopefully that helps. Whether it's a corner piece or a side piece, you'll be able to do that really quick now. When you know the method, you simply stand on them. Flipping takes about 6 ticks, so if you're speedrunning, that's not the method you want to go with. Now we're on to puzzle 3. This one's really simple and doesn't actually need much explanation at all. This is simply, you press this button and it's a game of Simon Says. You've just got to press 5 things that light up in that order. It's important to not walk over any other piece. So if I step on this one here and then run to there, that's fine because of how pathing works. But if I, for example, went like this and then like that, I walk on this tile, so it would end up using the pressure plate. So be very careful with walking. For example, you press the button and then 5 things light up in a row. Now what you want to do is you want to press them in order. So if I did this, that's the first 2. But then if you stand on the wrong one, you take damage. And then you've got to start again, and it's a completely different pattern. So let's do this one correct this time. Left, up, top, yep, so it's this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And that's it. Completed, and it lights up. Now again, in solo runs, you do have to go do the other side on your own, so you have to jump across this pillar. There's no other way to get there. In teams, you do one side each. Now this room's really interesting, because basically, this pillar's lit up, and it's another memory game, but in a unique way. If you hit a pillar and it doesn't light up, boulders fall from the sky, and that means it's the wrong pillar. If you hit the right pillar, it lights up. Now, it'll stay lit up for a little bit, and then it'll turn off. You've got to keep hitting other obelisks quickly. So if I do this and pick another one, oh, that's correct, but you've got to remember the pattern. So that one's incorrect. So now we know it's the middle, the top, and then we try a different one. And then we know it's the middle, the top, and then this one because the other 2 were wrong. And now, all you have to do is remember the pattern and hit them in order. It's worth noting that you don't need a fast weapon or anything for this, because if you spam click the pillars, you can actually do this really fast, look. That's with a buffer. You do not need a fast weapon, you can do anything you want. But that's basically it, it's just a memory test. Now, on this last one, this is the only puzzle that's different between solos and teams. In a team, this stack shoe path here is completely blocked off, you cannot run between them. But in solos, they've gave you a path to run between them. As you can see, this already has 4 complete. In teams, these 4 will not be completed at all, you have to do all 9. Now, this puzzle is very simple. You turn a tile on one side, you can see it's the knives, right? You turn a tile on the other side, and then they both flip back over because they're wrong. It is just a game of pairs. So if I click that, it's the knives, and then I go and click the knives on the other side, and then they match up. Now, this in solos is just, again, a memory game, nice and simple. There's not really anything else to go into here. So, let's get on to the boss. Now, this is the boss, Kephri. To fight this, you simply press the teleport crystal and you'll enter the room. For this, you'll want to use melee mostly. Boffer is pretty accurate here, but the Keris is really good. I also tested the Fang, and it didn't hit 1-0 throughout the entire fight. Now, this boss has, technically speaking, 6 phases. You kill its shield, and then it has a healing phase. And then you kill its shield again, it has another healing phase, and then you kill its shield again, and then finally its shield is depleted, and you can just kill it. While you're fighting the boss, there's a lot of mechanics to watch out for. I'll speak about them while I'm fighting it. So, you want to just hit it with melee, and then as you're fighting it, it's going to fire out these fireballs. Now, you can see where they're going to land. So there are many methods to deal with these. In solos, they travel really slowly, look. So you can just simply do this if you wanted to and you want it to be really safe. But I'm going to let a fireball hit me. So as you can see, if I let it hit me off prayer, it does 28 damage. If I pray mage and let it hit me, it does less, it's 16. These do hit random amounts, it's not a set amount every time. But essentially praying mage should about half the damage. Now these are eggs. As you can see, there's 2 different types. There's these small ones and these big ones. If you kill the big ones, they're the only ones you need to worry about, because these spawn these agile scarabs which constantly range hit you and move really fast. So you'll want to kill these if you're praying mage on the boss. If you dodge all of the mage's attacks, then you don't have to kill these. But it's better to. Again, I'll repeat, you only have to kill the eggs that are big and darker. It's worth noting you will always hit your max hit on the eggs. So in this invocation level, as long as my max hits 35 and above, it will kill it. The ones that don't contain the agile scarabs do explode, so watch out for that. Now this is a dung attack. When it fires it at you, it spawns a split in the room and you can't bypass this under any circumstances. So right now I'm trapped between this dung and this dung. I cannot enter this area. When it fires the attack at you though, you can click one direction of the dung. So if it fired dung at me here, I could click this way, or I could click the other way, and I would be able to pick the direction that I want to get trapped at. Now it's worth noting that there is an indicator for this dung. Your character gets a small swarm of scarabs around it. It's quite hard to see, especially in the heat of the moment, but if you keep an eye out for this, then you can actually tell when the dung's going to happen, leading to something that's in the tips and tricks section later on. And that is every mechanic on phase 1. This is the dung, so look, if I spam left, I get into this left area and don't get trapped. Now, when the first boss is down, it enters the healing phase. Now, in the first phase, this giant beetle spawns and you have to kill this. There's a few things to note. As you'll see, these kamikaze pilots spawn. These are just exploding bugs that target your area. So let's wait a little bit. You see this one? It targets it like a fireball. All you've got to do is move out the way. It's a 1-by-1 explosion. These scarab swarms heal the boss. If you can kill them before they reach the boss, then it won't get healed. In solos though, when you're trapped like this, it's quite hard to deal with because you can't reach them with a blowpipe. So it mostly fully heals anyway, but that's not a big deal. When it's back up, it's the exact same cycle as P1. So you just dodge the fireballs and hit the boss. Now, in the second healing phase, everything else is the same. The kamikaze pilots hit you. But you've got a beetle here that melees you. You have a beetle here that mages. Now I'm going to you're meant to kill this one first because it spawns all of these red orbs. And when it teleports away, if you've not damaged it enough, they fly towards you and deal damage. Now, the damage that it does to you is a lot. It seems to be based on the distance that it travels away from you. So if I put the range gear on, we need to deal with this as soon as possible. And that's what makes it difficult. And that's what makes it difficult when you're trapped by dung. Now, if you hit it enough, it will teleport away before it fires its red orb attack. As you can see, it's charging it up now. But if I can deal enough damage, oh, that one just killed it, that's fine. That's all you do. You basically kill both scarabs and then you're back on the boss. And then when this is down, it's got a final phase where you just basically kill it. The mechanics for all of the parts where Kephri is up are the exact same. You have dung, you have eggs, you have the fireball, and that is essentially it. Now in the final phase, as you can see, the boss loses its shield. I am now trapped here and can't melee it anymore, so I will use a buffer. But it does the exact same mechanics. However, now it's only got 145 health and it dies when it's down. It's not got a shield anymore. So you just run around, dodge fireballs, and kill it. And congratulations, you have beat Kephri. In a team, if you obtain the Scarab Dung, it means you are the MVP for that fight. And that's all there is to it. Now let's go through some invocations. Kephri has 5. First, Lively Larva, which we had on the first run. This simply makes it so more eggs are darker from my experience, and the ones that aren't dark explode and deal some damage to you. More Overlords is Kephri will periodically call for additional backup. This just literally means When it goes down on the first and the second shield phase and it spawns the singular range minion, then afterwards spawns the mage and the melee minion. The first down causes 2 things to spawn. I believe it's a ranger and a meleeer. And the second down causes all 3 types to spawn. The major, the ranger and the meleeer. Blowing mud makes dung twice as potent. That simply just means that it happens twice as often from what I've learned. Medic is Kephri will have a continuous shield scarab spawns. This means on the shield phases, it's got scarabs that go in a clockwise direction around the room, and whenever one hits the boss without being killed, it heals it. Heals the shield at least. And finally, aerial assault. This is the problematic one. This causes its fireball attack to have a 3x3 square instead. Let's go take a look at it. Now, as you can see, the shield invocation causes these scarab swarms to spawn. So on the shield phase, whenever they enter the boss, they heal the boss's shield. So if I damage the boss a little bit, as you can see, it enters and then heals the shield. Now, these spawn in a clockwise direction. Sometimes it skips some of them, but it always goes clockwise. So the next one will spawn over here. And then when that one goes in, it will spawn about here, as you can see. And then when that one goes in, it'll spawn here. So that's all there is to the shield one. Now, the second invocation that we put on was the one called Blowing Mud. Now, this makes Kephri's dung special twice as potent. Now, by that, from my understanding, all it means is that it happens twice as often. It doesn't spawn 2 rows of dung like I initially thought, so I'm pretty sure it is just twice as common. I do not have confirmation on this, but I have noticed that when soloing, it does happen a lot more often. The next invocation that we put on was called Aerial Assault. Now, what this does is Kephri will additionally call for additional backup. So, as you can see, there's 2 minions that spawn on the first phase here. Normally there's only 1. This time there's a ranger and a major. Now, what this means is that it's just a little bit harder because it spawns additional minions. This is the first down. So when I kill these and kill the boss again, we'll see what happens at the next down. As you can see, I'm quite confident that the second relic, the one that I'm quite confident that the second invocation, the one that adds more dung, does make it twice as common. That's the only thing about this boss that I'm not too sure about. I've got a really good grasp on everything else. Now it's gone down again. As you can see, all 3 minions have spawned. And that's because the relic, Aerial Assault, causes that. Now, again, you have to deal with the major first, or else these orbs fly at you. I am going to die here, but I've showcased all the invocations now. So, when it fires at you, obviously, like I said earlier, you take a lot of damage. Now, the order to kill those is going to be the major, the ranger, then the meleeer, because the meleeer can get trapped behind dung. Now let's look at the final invocation. Aerial Assault. Kephri's main attack will do significantly more damage and hit a larger area. Now, as you can see, Kephri's attacks are all 3x3 squares. The mage prayer still halves the damage from it, or lowers it at least. And it's worth noting that now, if you stand in the middle of the attack, you take a lot more damage than the side. Well, not a lot, but you take more, watch. So if I have prayer on, and stand in the middle of the 3x3 square, it deals 22. If I stand on the edge of the 3x3 square, it deals 13. So if you are going to get hit, try to stand at the side. Now, this is really a hard invocation to have in higher tier teams, because obviously you're trying to avoid this, and these stack. If someone stands next to you and there's a 3x3 area and theirs overlaps yours, if you stand on it, it will deal 2 lots of damage. So you've got to be very, very, very careful. Now, the best way to avoid this is that if you're hitting the boss, in a solo, it's really slow, so you can simply hit the boss and then move 2 to the side. Hit the boss and move 2 to the side, for example. This is a nice and really easy way to avoid a 3x3 square. In a team, however, it gets a lot harder. But we've looked at all the invocations now, so let's go through a few tricks. For starters, like I said, with this, you can just move 2 to the side. It's nice and simple in a solo. It's worth noting that this fireball attack gets faster the more people that you have, because in a solo it moves a lot slower than when you're in a team. I'm not sure why that is, but it is something that I've observed. Now, do you remember what we said about the dung? As we said earlier, it gets an indicator of a swarm. So a really solid advanced strategy in a solo is that if you dung the side like this, and you simply do that just by standing on one of these tiles that the dung is on. So if you go to any corner and do that, that is where the dung spawns. Now, if you keep looking at my character model as I'm dodging, you'll see a scarab swarm appear. There we go, can you see it? That is, it's going to fire dung. Now, if you stand next to where your other dung is, look at this, you avoid most of it, and it stacks in one area. So if you're fighting the boss, for example, then as soon as you see the scarab swarm, if you move onto the diagonal next to where you've put the dung, there's the swarm. So if I move here, then it keeps all of the dung in one place, look. And it only adds 2 more at a time. This gives you access to the entire room. Genuinely, this tip should be used in most runs, especially solo. If you can get a coordinated team as well, this would be amazing. One of the tips and tricks is that if you're in a straight line of dung like this, when they fire another dung attack, you can actually click to the side and it'll shove you out of it. So if I just sit here and wait for another dung attack, as you can see, it knocks me there, and if you spam click a direction, I am now in this other area. Now this only really happens if you're in a straight line, or if the dung is going to cover up all of the tiles that you have access to. Bear that in mind. Now the final tip is, if you want to avoid it, copy some of the movement that I'm doing in this clip, because even with a little bit of lag, this movement makes it so you don't get hit at all. Basically, if you can move between 4 tiles, and then when you click attack, make sure it walks you towards the boss, you're not really going to get hit at all, no matter how fast it gets. I'll play a little clip now. And now that's done, I have one final piece of advice. If you have the Invocation on to make Kephri's main attack a 3x3, be very careful on the final fight, the Wardens. If you didn't know, there's 2 versions of the final fight in the final phase. One of them spawns Zabak and Barber as guardian spirits to help them, and one of them spawns Arca and Kephri. If it spawns Kephri, it uses its mage attack that it does in this in the final phase. And it's already clustered as it is, so it does make it pretty difficult. But if you have the Invocation on Aerial Assault to make its attack do the 3x3 and deal more damage, that translates onto the Warden fight at the end, making it a lot harder. So if you do have that Invocation on, I'd recommend going the Zabak and Barber route at the end, rather than having the Kephri one. And that's it. I hope that helped out. Genuinely, I do feel like this has covered almost everything to do with this boss. It's not fully figured out yet, which is why I've not really wanted to do any kind of gear guide or anything like that. This is just a straight, these are the mechanics, this is what they do, this is how to avoid them, and this is the best way to do them. I hope it was helpful. If you want to see this for the other bosses, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, it means a lot. Love you and leave you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!